Hey y'all, Simply Zoological here, and welcome back to the channel. Either way, thank you all for joining me for today's video, where we are back with Steelwater Park Zoo. I almost said Shaded Pines just then. I am so excited to be back in this zoo. I have been absolutely loving building for this zoo over the last month that we've been building in it, I think, something like that. It's just nice to be able to build what I want, how I want it, and not have to stress about time constraints or finishing a build because of the way that I'm building this zoo. If you don't know or you haven't seen any of the other videos, make sure you go and watch the other videos for this zoo. But if you don't know, basically what I do is I just kind of build what I feel. And if a video gets made out of it, then that's great. If not, then I'll do just a little bit more to get a video done. But there's not one specific start and end to every episode or video of this series. This series is a very much more laid back kind of build what I want, where I want, how I feel sort of thing. And with this episode that we're currently watching, I actually started with the exterior of the building, and the interior will be in next episode. So this is going to be, again, like a two-parter or maybe even a three-parter sort of video. But I love how this turned out. I think so far this is my favorite build that I've done, simply just because of all of the gardening and all of the exterior work that went into it, because I was like, I wanted to build something to get back into Planet Zoo, because I have been in a little bit of a rut lately in the building for Planet Zoo. I mean, I've wanted to build, I just haven't had the inspiration or the motivation to build anything. So to kind of get me back into it, I came up with this zoo, and that's where this zoo series came from, was to I just build what I feel, how I feel sort of thing. But I am, again, very excited and very happy with this build that we are doing today. You can see I'm currently working on a pergola or a pagoda, however you want to say it. I'm going to say that this is a pergola because that's what I feel like it is. But I saw this picture on Pinterest. Again, if you are new or you don't know, most of my inspiration for Planet Zoo does come from Pinterest. And I saw this picture on Pinterest of this building, and it was a 2-story building, but the building that we're building is not 2 stories, it's just 1 story. But it was a 2-story building, and I really loved it. I'm like, that would be perfect for Steelwater Park for the staff area of it, or like the staff access area. And I do have plans to do a parking lot and all that other stuff too. So just be on the lookout for that and everything. You can see that we've now moved on to the foliage work of this, and this episode is going to be 90% foliage work because it is a lot of exterior stuff, exterior detailing and stuff like that, where typically, you might start on the interior or work your way out or start with the building. I started with the garden, basically. And I wanted this to be a very calm, very zen place, and very pretty place too, because the idea that I have in mind for this zoo is the path that you can see at the bottom of the screen right now is the guest path that will lead them to the rest of the zoo. So they're going to be walking by this pretty frequently. And so I wanted to make sure that this was very pretty, very spiffy and everything for them to be able to walk by and see all the pretty flowers and everything and see the staff building, but it not be an eyesore. And I do know that a lot of zoos, they might not do this much work, but I wanted to, and I felt like it, so I said, why not? Now you can see we are working on what will be a bird bath. It doesn't function for real birds in the game because, we don't have flying birds in Planet Zoo, I don't believe. But or like wild birds, I guess you could say. But this is supposed to be a little bird bath for birds to come and sit and lounge and everything, clean themselves off, and then go back to flying or whatever. I just thought it it was nice, and I liked the fact that it added something without it being so overwhelming, because I wanted something right there as like a statue or like a centerpiece or like a focal point for as the guests walk by it, but I didn't want it to be too big or too like, hey, look at me. Now we have moved on to the exterior walls, and this is basically all we do for the staff building today, is just do the walls. And this, I will say, putting this wall together took me, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes, because for whatever reason, this build was just so easy for me. I was able to just kind of fly through it. I think the longest part of the build was figuring out where I wanted all of the garden beds. And a big help for that was the picture that I was looking at from Pinterest. They had these garden beds kind of scattered throughout the exterior of the building. And so that did help me a little bit in knowing like the general area that I would put them in. But for me, it was more or less like the shape or the way that I want them to curve, stuff like that, because I do have this path right here. But you can see that the garden bed is now fully filled. We do have some more details in like the edging, I think is what it's called, is like the garden bed edging. I just used the small faux rocks for the edging and just kind of put on random rotation and rotated those all the way around. I think this was the hardest part with this build, was because I had the windows on the outside of the building, so that way, you know, guests or staff, they could like look into the building from outside, because I love the fact that we have those windows on staff buildings. However, I hate that, you know, I hate the placement of them, because we don't have pieces small enough to go in between the windows to still frame the windows without using the 4x4 gridded panels and stuff. And so I just kind of covered them up and used some decorative windows. Not my favorite thing, but I do really like how it turned out in the end. So I'm happy with it. Here you can see we have now moved on to another garden bed. I'm telling you, I put garden beds everywhere in this build. And by everywhere, I mean everywhere. I think every path or every like little nook or cranny has some sort of garden bed in it. And I am so happy with how this turned out. I think that was my favorite part about this whole thing, was being able to relax, sit back, and just place plants all over the place, basically. I did struggle a little bit initially with the plants that I wanted to use and stuff like that, but overall it worked out really well. And I know that looked really quick, me picking this tree, but in real life, I think it took me probably 10 minutes, because I cut out probably about a minute or so time gap of me trying every single tree under the filters that I've selected for this spot right here, because I knew I wanted a tree, but I didn't want it to be one of the tall cypress trees, because we already have those on the front. And I wanted something that as the guests are walking up, they can see it and they can see that it's there, but it's not so overwhelming or so big or tall or bulky that it's kind of an eyesore almost. Because I still wanted the guests to be able to see past it and to see maybe things that could be in this like higher up in the sky beyond this tree. And if I had done other trees, it wouldn't have worked. So it took me probably 10-15 minutes to figure out what tree I wanted. And I actually had to take a break and come back to it, because I'm like, I can't figure it out. So you can see here we are now adding another type of edging or path barrier, I guess. This is all for the staff, so guests cannot walk on this path at all, because you can see it's the staff path. But I am very happy with how this turned out. I think, what piece is this? It's a classic piece, I think, or is that Twilight? Does that say Twilight in the bottom corner? I think it's a Twilight piece. I don't know. But I do know that I have been getting a little bit better about using pieces not for their intended purpose. And right here is a good example of that. You know, in videos and series that I've done in the past, I've been very bad and I've always struggled with using pieces as not for what their intended purpose is. So like, I haven't been able to use like a beam as, you know, a leg or for a chair or something like that. I've always kind of struggled with that because I look at things very literally. But as I've gotten better at Planet Zoo and I've played Planet Zoo more over the last year or so, I have definitely explored my options of using items as not what their intended purpose is. And with those little, I am so happy with those little garden lights. I do add some more at some point, I think just to add a little bit more lighting, but I think I do that after we do the pond, which should be in next episode. I'm very excited for next episode because next episode we actually start like I don't want to say the zoo entrance because we've already done it, but the welcome to the zoo sort of part where we start, because this zoo is going to be very heavily themed is what I'm wanting, and I want like different, you know, continents and stuff like that. The animal roster is currently sitting at, I think, 50 something animals. It's pretty bad. And I continue to add more animals to it. So it's going to be a very big zoo. I would have to say that this might be, I don't know that it will be as big as Caesar Creates' Elm Hill City Zoo, but it will definitely be a big zoo. And that's kind of what I've always wanted. I wanted a zoo that I could, you know, it be a small city zoo, but also have a large number of species. So like, I want it to look small and quaint on the outside, but once you actually get in, you're like, oh, this is a massive zoo. And it's kind of a zoo that some people might think, oh, we shouldn't go, but the locals are like, oh, no, you need to go to this zoo because this is like the best zoo around. It's kind of what I've always wanted. They've always wanted a series like that, and I think this is going to be the perfect series for that. I just hope that I don't get burnt out of the zoo and finish it. But with the way that I'm building in this series, I don't think that I will get burnt out of it, and I'm really excited to continue to build in this zoo. I think that's why I've also kind of been struggling with doing a Shaded Pines series episode for the last little while, because we did take a break from Shaded Pines once we finished the wolves and stuff. Once we finished that, and with Christmas and everything coming and all the holidays that we've just had, we did take a little bit of a break from Planet Zoo and everything. But I also, with Shaded Pines, you know, you have the cinematics and the storytelling and all that stuff that I love to do, and I love that. However, I am also kind of ready for the zoo to be done, and I think at this point I'm excited to continue working on it. And I have finished the build for the next episode of it. I just need to do the cinematics. So for the storytelling and the intro and everything is all I have left to do. But that is, I mean, we're almost done. We only have about a minute left in this video. I can't believe I just talked about, I think, random nonsense for 15 minutes. But I do know that I have gotten better at doing voiceovers and stuff over the last couple months that I've been doing them. But yeah, that's really all I have for y'all this week. We did the exterior of the building. We are currently working on the quarantine the quarantine holding. We have 3 different holding for quarantine animals that are sick or whatever their needs are. And I am really happy with how all of this turned out. I think we'll probably do not like a tour, but we'll probably do some cinematics and stuff of it after the rest of it is done. The second half of this episode is done, basically. So, but that is all I have for y'all this week. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I know I enjoyed making it. You can see a little snippet of episode 2 in the corner there if you look really closely. But But yeah, I am very excited with how this turned out. I love it. I think this was probably one of my best builds that I've done today. And yeah, I'm just very proud of this whole thing. Anyways, I will talk to y'all next week. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye, guys.